A path to tax reform. House Speaker Paul Ryan visited the New Balance factory yesterday in Lawrence, Massachusetts, where he told reporters that Republicans are more united on tax reform compared to health care. He also said the tax reform could get done as early as this year.
We're going to get this done in 2017. We're going to get this done because we have to get this done. The competitiveness of our economy, the viability of our jobs, making sure that we can be competitive, that we can grow, that we can create, that we can raise families and have faster growth, and not just the economy, but our wages, our standard of living. We cannot miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. This is a once-in-a-generation moment. It is time to cut taxes and simplify the code. It is time to create jobs and grow our economy.
Let's talk about that and bring in Congressman Marsha Blackburn right now. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Sure.
I know that you agree with Speaker Ryan. You've talked about this before on this program, but I've got to ask you to talk to us about a path to see this happening, Congressman, because I don't know. I've been asking this question today and yesterday. Is it time to ask the question if the GOP is really wanting this president to succeed? I mean, here we are 6 months in, Congressman. How do you get to tax reform?
And the way you get to tax reform is for us to say, yes, this president deserves to succeed because the American people deserve to succeed. And what we want to do is see productivity. There are a lot of innovative companies out here that have been waiting on tax reform, waiting on health care reform for a couple of reasons. They want to add employees and they want to grow their businesses. They're looking for export markets, and they want some certainty, some stability. And Maria, one of the things I think is so important, and the reason we have to look at the business side of this tax code is with technology and utilization of technology, if you're going to do upgrades or reposition or change manufacturing processes, and that involves technology, you want to be able to write that off sooner rather than later. It's not going to be 15 years. It's going to be closer to 2 years that you want to have that write down. So getting in there, looking at the environment as it is and saying, how do we make this competitive so that these new companies, new starts, have the opportunity to grow to be global entities. We have to get this done.
Yeah, well, look, you're speaking to the choir here, Congressman. We understand all the reasons why you've got to get tax reform done. We got it. We understand the economy and what business needs right now.
Yes, you do.
But how are you going to get there? I mean, the fact is you had all of these debates on health care. Aren't you going to have the same debates on tax reform when it comes to what the corporate rate should be, what the deductions are that should stay and what should go, border adjustment tax, and also who's holding back progress, Congressman? It's time to start calling those people out. Who's standing in the way of the president's agenda? American voters want this to be executed.
You're exactly right, and I think that individuals need to be holding their senators and representatives accountable to taking action. They want to see things done. They want the get-her-done caucus to rule the day and for people to come together. And I tell you what, I have heard from so many people. Yesterday at a farmer's market here in my district, people were saying, why can't Democrats and Republicans work together? I went to a meeting with innovators, technology innovators last evening, and they were asking the same question. And I think the best way to do that is for the voters to weigh in, individuals to weigh in and say, we expect you to get to the table to negotiate this.
They did that. They elected, the Republicans have a majority in the House and a majority in the Senate, and y'all aren't doing anything. Now, to your credit, the Republicans in the House did at least move a health care reform bill.
They did.
You did at least move that. That somehow the Republicans in the House, with all their disparate ideas, did something that the senators couldn't. But with regard to tax reform, what is the biggest stumbling block? Is the border adjustment tax off the table? Can we get past that and say we're not going to use that? Is that off the table? What is the biggest stumbling block?
Dagan, I do think the border adjustment tax is off the table. The reason for that is you have to say what is the value added there. And nobody can seem to give a definitive answer on a value added. When it comes to tax, timing is part of the process, making certain that a budget is there so tax can go through on reconciliation. I agree with what many have said. Let's look at the way this was approached when Reagan did his tax reform and did it on a bipartisan basis. That is going to be important. The Democrats many times are not wanting to work on anything. Now, as far as productivity in the House, yes, we've passed over 300 bills out of the House, and we want the Senate to catch up with us. I think they've done about 120 bills, and it's important for them to begin to take action. Some of these rules, regulations, bills we're passing that deal with efficiencies that are embedded in the economy, rolling back regulations, those things need to get across the finish line. And I will say, on some of those smaller measures, yes, we have seen bipartisan support. On the big measures, health care, tax reform, so far we're not seeing that bipartisan support. And this is where constituents need to be weighing in with their elected representatives.
You're already running for next year, Congressman. That's the way that it sounds, is that you're asking voters to go out there and vote the Democrats out next year, when in fact, if the Republicans don't get something done, all of your jobs are on the line.
I agree with you on that. But constituents weighing in with those congressional offices and saying, I would like to see something get done. Those offices pay attention to that. And if members are hearing from their constituents that they want them to come to the table and work for the good of the country, that has a bearing. And at this point, when you have some who are saying we're not going to come to the table, I think hearing from their constituents that there is an expectation that for the good of the country, you're going to get this done. Look at what just lowering the marginal rates would do. If people could go back and reset their withholding, what is coming out of their paychecks, increase that take-home pay, just being able to do that, because all of our tax reform will be retroactive to January 1 of 2017.